Yeah. So, hello all. Good morning and good evening. So let's start with the session. So here, last class we have discussed about this home page. So Spotify Music Search app. So here we have discussed about how to make the search box, this finish, and also this card, right? So let's check the code of this thing. Um, Let me go to SRC app components. It's a home component. HTML. Yes, we made just static HTML, but we're not made anything dynamic like form handling and are not there. Okay, so let's start with this part now. Okay, so whatever I'm searching here, okay, and that particular data, that particular artist has to display in the form of this cards. So how to make a search is I want to make a two-way data binding between this particular form and then the page. Okay, so how you make two-way data binding for this particular text box is you need to use the ng model. But if you want to use ng model, you need to import forms module in the main app module. Let me do that first. Go to app module. I just I'll include. Yep. Let me import. Import forms module. Come on. Yeah. So let me copy this and add to the imports. Okay. So we got the forms module. We can start using ng model now. So my plan is in the home components, I create a variable. So public search query. I think it's using the ESLint. Let me disable that once, or let me check once. String is equal to null. Okay, let me disable the TSLint. So settings, editor, inspections, TypeScript, ESLint, disable, apply. Okay, yeah, fine. So I have a search query, and this we have to configure to the HTML using two-way data binding. So how to add two-way data binding is here. So it must have a name attribute also. So let's make a name is equal to search. Okay, some name, and also let me add ng model to the search query. But I have to see the data if it is uh, binded to the backend or not. So I'll use the expression search query. Let me check. Yes, I'm just typing on here. It's not display. So data binding is not happen. Oh, sorry, it's not one way, it's two way. Let's say ng model of this one. Yes, correct. So let's check one more time. When I'm searching, yes, it is binded to the backend. Fine. This part is finished. So next thing is whatever you're searching over here, so that particular data has to be displayed in the place of here. So for this, we need to use an API. And what is that API is? Spotify Web API. Let me go there. Let me go to Google. Just search for Spotify Web API. Okay, this is the API for developers. So this is a music search app. See, this how it works. Like your application is going to connect with through the API calls to the Spotify the database. Okay, so how you make calls and all the actions has given here. Let me click on a reference, web API reference. So in this, there are some endpoints like which function to be called and what is the path and all. So I just click on a search. So in the search, I have an endpoint and there are some request parameters. So what to be passed over here, and there's a query parameters, what type of data you want and all. Yes, let me just go to the bottom of the page. Yes, here you have search for artist. Okay, so I need to search for an artist. This list of artists has to come. So here, I just click on try it. Okay, so this is the URL along with some authorization key. And if you want to get the new authorization key, um, yeah, here get token, you can just click on. If I just click on, don't click anything, just click on request token. Yep. So you're gonna get a new token because it's not a direct URL which you can access, without any authorization. It's a secured URL. So you must provide an authorization key. It's a JWT authentication. It's a JSON web token. Even we discussed this concept for our server also to this authentication, but this already have it. Okay, let me use this. So how to call and all, we'll see. And this is the URL to get the artist data. Okay, if I just click on a try, see, I got the person's data. So what can we do is, I need to call this URL to get the data. So to call this URL, first we need to create a service. So let me go to services. I think there is no service. So let me create a Spotify service. Let me right click, open in terminal. Here I'll say NgGS as per service and Spotify. Enter. Yeah. So it's created the service. So let me go to there. Yeah. Services. Services. Yeah. Spotify service. First of all, once you create a service, it has to be uh, configured as a provider in app module. Let me go there once. Yeah, here I'll use provider Spotify service. It automatically imports. And along with that, I want to use the HTTP module to get the connection to the backend servers. So I need to import HTTP modules, HTTP client module. So that is also imported from HTTP package. Yeah, fine. So I got this module so that I can use it in my service. Let me go to service. So here, so service is dependent on HTTP client. I'm gonna use that as a dependency. So HTTP client of HTTP client. Okay, so I need to create a first one method. So let's say get all artist, get all artists. So how to get all artists is, let me create a function get all artists. Okay, so here you have to do the http.client.get URL. But what is the URL you're gonna search for is, they have already given a URL. This is the URL. Let me copy the URL to search for an artist and list of artists. So here, so let artist URL is equal to backtick. I'm gonna paste it. Okay, but here search query q is equal to some person name is there. I don't need this always this person data. I want whatever the person I'm searching in the search box, that person data only I have to filter out. So it means this data has to come from the form. Okay. Assume I'm going to call this function with some data like a search query. Okay. And the same search query, I'm going to substitute in the place of here like a dynamic paste. So whatever the search query you're passing, if you're typing something called AR, so that AR is going to send to the this URL, and so that all the list of um, items will be fetched from the backend user based on this particular URL. Okay, and let me fetch data. So how we do this dot underscore HTTP client dot get URL. So that's the artist URL. And one more thing here, it is not a simple or direct URL to which you can access, but you need to provide an authorization. So how to provide the authorization is you need to set up some headers. So I tell you how to set up the headers here. So let's not let it's a class. So public, or you can take private. First I take public. I'll just take like this private. Authorization key. Authorization key is equal to, let me grab this authorization key. So authorization key starts from bearer keyword, and let me copy this and paste it here. Okay, this is the authorization key so to send, and let's create some options. Let's say private HTTP options is equal to an object inside. Let's make the headers of type new HTTP headers. So in this an object. So here we have to pass some set of data. What type of data is like this? Accept. The value will be the application slash JSON, and the content type is also application slash JSON, and the authorization is going to be this dot authorization key. Okay, so we had set up some HTTP options to send to the URL. So we got this, and these options we had to substitute here as a second parameter. This dot HTTP options. Okay, because it's a secure URL. Fine. We have to return the observable. So let's say return. So let's make it is of type any. Actually, we have to configure what type of perfect data, but I'll just make any observable of type any. Okay. So now I got all artists. Let me just call this from here from HTML. So whatever I'm searching on the key up events, I have to do that. So let me do one thing in this here. I create a method get artist, or let's say search artist. I'll make a function, method search artist. Okay. So here I have to pass the search query to there. But if you want to call the search artist from the backend service, you need to uh, declare the dependency first. So private underscore search, or let's say Spotify search of type Spotify service. It's not sorry, it's a service. Yeah, let me call that this dot Spotify service dot get all artists. So you have to substitute the search query. We have already tested this two-way binding. So I just write this dot search query dot subscribe, and here you're gonna get the data. You will get data, and this data I'm gonna assign to a variable. I create a variable first. So public artist is equal to, let me just say artist is equal to an empty array. So I need to attach this data there. So let's say this dot artist is equal to data. Okay, fine. And don't declare. You can just, I mean, just declare like this, not assign anything. Fine. So I have attached the data back to the artist. So let me check what is this artist contains. So go to my HTML. Where I write is, I'll make somewhere here. I write some pre-tag because I have to see the exact data what is there in the JSON. Inside, I'll use artist of type JSON, okay, in a JSON format. Let me check. So when I search for ARJ, what happened? No data. Oh, no error too. 1 second. This .htp client. Oh, sorry. This is artist. This is correct only. This .htp client dot get URL and the options. Is that correct? Yes. Headers. Mm, Search query is coming and return this .http client. So I call that here search artist. Oh, 1 minute. I have made a function, but I have not attached this function for the key up event. Correct? So, but how does this function gets called? It's not at all called. See, unused method search artist. We are not called the function. So we have to call this function when key up happens on this text box. So let me go to text box once. So that is missing. Yeah. So let's say key up. When the key up happens, I call search artist function. Okay. So then when key up happens, it's called this function, and that's gonna fetch and display back to the artist, and that's gonna display on the page also here. Let's check once. I think it's refresh. Yeah, I just say ARJ. Yes, I got data. There's a huge data. A big JSON data has come. Fine. So in this is an object. So artist is an object. In that, another artist is there. In that, items is an array. So that actually contains the data. So I need actually this particular array. So which contains actual the list of artists. If you want to get this, you need to do what? Artist dot items. Let me do one thing. I just do the directly. When I'm making here data, so data dot artist dot items. So because I get the direct artist data. So let's check once. Right, ARJ. Okay, so I got an array of items. So let me just grab this data. Okay, copy this. Go to I'll paste it. Go to, let me change this to JSON. Yep. So I have an array. So in that each object, let me check. This is an object, and in the object you can find all data like Spotify external URL, the number of followers, the genus, and the ID, the image, and the name, popularity, all this. Right? I need the name also. And okay, so we just loop it. So I don't need to display now back this array. I just delete this. Anyway, we got data. Now thing is, they had to convert this like a the real time data, this card. So the whole data is stored in artist variable. So go to HTML back. So this Ajit Singh I had to replace with actual name, and also I had to loop with the number of artists. So what I do is, can you make for each row or each column? Okay, each column I write star ng for let artist of artist. So each artist, how to get the name? I'm gonna get the name using that name. So I write artist dot name. Okay, artist dot name, and then image. So I remove this src. So src, I have to get the src means image. So I can use this. Images is actually an array. In that I need this URL. So images of 0, the first element dot URL. So I write artist dot images is an array of 0, the very first element, dot the URL. So I have to get this particular URL to fetch the person image. Let me check once. Are we got anything? Nothing. If I say ARJ, I got, but it's like this. Small change. I think it's not ng for the column. It's the ng for each row. Okay, let me save it. Okay, adjusting photos has changed. This person has changed, but this is always adjusting because you have to change this. Okay, these are all just real-time data, and I need to give some gap as well. Let me do that first. Card. Let me give margin top some 3, and yep. Yeah, name I have to replace with artist dot name, and followers I replace with artist dot. How to get the followers? Followers is here dot followers dot total. Let me give the number filter. Let me check one more time. Adjusting uh, AR. Okay, adjusting. We have yes, all different persons data is coming. Fine, looks good. And yeah, this genus I have to replace because it's a static now. This one I don't need these many by myself. I use ng4. So for this span, I'll use star ng4. So because I have multiple genres like an array, let me loop it. So each genre, so let's genre of artist dot genus, and here I substitute the data genre. So let's check once. Are adjusting having some data, and this person having some other Punjabi pop and all. Fine. This is the first page. So photos are coming, and names, everything is get changed. This looks good. Then what is the plan here is whenever I click on the person name, okay, so let's make an anchor tag for this. When I click on a name, I need to switch to the this person's data. Actually, how this application is gonna work is in the application we have to search for an artist. So there are multiple artists. So each artist will have their own albums. Okay. So each album will have a set of tracks. So artists contains a collection of albums, and each album contains a collection of tracks. So this track is nothing but which contains an audio files. URL to play the audio files over in your application. So we need to do this approach. So we got all artists. So when I click on a particular artist, so that particular artist data has to come on my page. So how we get particular artist data is, see here. I have already brought from this website the exact URL to search for an artist and albums. You can go and search over here. So I got those URLs. See, this we have done, get all artists, search query and type artist, and then you want to get a single artist. You have to do the API slash v1 slash artist slash the artist ID. So how you gonna get this artist ID is, see here. This is the first person data, right? The adjusting data. So here you can find an ID. Yes, this is the ID. So if this ID, I think again this is the URL href. Okay. So when you pass this ID over here, so that you're gonna get that particular artist data, and from there you can fetch the albums and tracks as well. So I need to do this. It means I need to send a URL. I need to access the ID, and that ID has to send to the next page so that I have to display the data. So for that process, I need to attach an anchor tag here with the ID. So my plan is artist name. Yep, here I'll just write an anchor tag. So it's not href. I use router link, and let's make the name. So router link, what I have to do is, can we give directly the ID? It's a artist dot ID. Let me test the URL how it is. I say artist. Okay, adjusting. See, when I keep a cursor, see here I am getting just normal URL slash the ID. I don't need this. I need to make some other like slash artist slash. Okay, artist slash the ID. I'm gonna get this ID. Let me test again. Yeah, I say adjusting. Yeah. So see here in the bottom of the page, artist slash this ID. So whenever you get this ID, and through that ID, I have to fetch the particular artist and his albums in a next page. So I have to create a next page first. The next component. So I have a home component and navbar component, but we don't have that component called artist components. Let me create that quickly. So go to terminal. So NgGC artist, artist components, click on enter. Okay, so let me configure this artist component in my app routing module. So here let me add a path. Let me copy the same and comma paste. This is going to be the artist slash s is there, no? One dash. Yes, artist slash ID. Okay, back to here. Artist slash colon ID is going to be dynamic, and I had to represent what's artist component. Okay, let me go to artist component. Let me check once. Is that working or not? Artist AR. If I click on this, yes, artist works, and I got a 4Y and some URL. Okay, when I search for some other Arman Malik, so yes, I get some 4K, some other URL, but I have to fetch this data in my application. In this particular component. So how to fetch this data is from URL. That's a param map. So go to the artist components. I'll make public artist ID of type normal string. So I need to fetch the artist ID so that I can get it. So how to do that is, let me private underscore, that is activated routes of type activated root. So from this you'll fetch the data of this thing. Let me go directly to the URL. Yeah, let me keep this page here. I need to fetch this data here. So for that, activate root. So whenever it is initialized, and I write this dot underscore activate roots dot param dot uh, subscribe. So here you have a function. You have a param map of type param map. Okay. So what to do is, so this dot artist ID is equal to param map dot get of ID. Okay. So I got this artist ID, and let me display this artist ID in my HTML to just for cross check. I go to HTML. I write some H1. I want to see the data, so just say artist ID. Let's check. How do we get artist ID from the URL? Yes, I got the artist ID. So based on this artist ID, I have to fetch the artist data and display. But before we display, let me finish off this this design part of it. So what the design for this page is, I have a screenshot, artist page and albums page. Let me open artist page here. Okay, so this is the page we have to make now. This is one card again. In the card body, we have a collection of cards. Let's make this now. I did this. Let's make one section. So let me write, give the class called P3 in that one container. Sorry, one row, one single column. Let's make a card header, and then card body. So card header I write BG primary and text white. So inside I write what the person image and the text. So here, but editing is full of the page. I think it's container fluid. Okay. So here in this, I'll make another row and then call MD3 and another one call MD9. So 3 column and 9 column layout. I need to display an image here, IMG. So as of now, the static image from the Google. You can go to Google. Okay, let me get this image for time being. Paste it, and I'll give the class called image fluid image thumbnail. Okay, let me check. Yeah, I got it. Thumbnail is not there. Okay, so here I need to get the person name and all. How like this person name, Janice, and followers. So I write here h3 with the class called display 3. Name is Arjit Singh and Janice. Um, can write P with a class called h3. Uh, here we need to have a span with a class called badge and badge success and margin right to 2, and I write something pop and followers. Again P with a class called h3 followers. I have to display some number, some static number as of now, and we need to click on a back button. So let's make a button. You can make a button or anchor tag. Let's make a button. Give the class called btn minus outline white, and let's make btn sm as a small button, and let's say just back. Okay, fine. Let me check once my page. Yes, it looks good, and let me no gap here. You can give no gutters and also align items center. Okay, is that much? Okay, fine. We'll find out this part later. And in the card body, I need to display another cards like each albums, right? This album. So let's each row we have a four cards. It's a column D3 is having a card body with some image and the data. Let's make this part as well. So in the card body, is that here? In the card body, let's make a row in that call MD3. We have a card minus body. In the card body, I need to make an image. Let me grab the same image for time being, and image, and it has to be center. Let's say card body bg primary, or can you say bg secondary, and text white and text center. Let's check. Okay, and so column d3, right? Yeah. Below I need to display the album name. Let's make a h3. Just write album name, and let me give the class called margin top 2, and then what else? A button view album. Okay, let's make that as well. Let's make a button. Give the class call btn minus outline white, but it's not actually a button. Can we make an anchor tag, because it has to go to the next page? I'll make an anchor tag here. HL just slash as of now. Give the class btn minus outline white, and just say view album. Fine. So HTML part is finished. So we got some card like this. Fine. Let me go to home. When I search for something, this person Arman Malik. Uh, this is come, but I don't get his particular data. So let me make a dynamic. It means you have to fetch the particular artist. So how you get a particular artist is using this ID. Anyway, you got this ID, and let me create the service. In the service, create a method to fetch this data. So go to service once, because we have to get data from service. So in service, we have only one method, that's to get all artists. Let me get a single artist. Get a single artist. So public get artist. So here you have to provide the artist ID. So let's artist URL. This URL is equal to, let's make a string with backtick. Let me substitute this data here. Okay, so this artist ID you have to substitute here. Then you have to fetch artist. Okay, then let me do this same part now, and it's going to give you an observable of type any. Okay, so get single artist. This returns a single artist object that I have to call from my actual component TS file, which component is artist components. Go to artist component.ts. So I have to call that to using this artist ID. This artist ID is coming from the URL, and from there I have to get data from the service. So I create another variable artist of type any, because I don't know what type of data is going to come. As of now, just take any. So here get artist. This is get artist ID from URL. Okay, it's a browser URL. Okay, get artist ID from service. So how? So we need to dependent on the service. Let's make that also, comma. So private underscore Spotify service of type Spotify service. Using that, we have to fetch data. So this dot underscore Spotify service dot get artist of the artist ID. So this dot artist ID dot subscribe. Here you're gonna get the data. So here you will get data, and that data I assigned to the my artist. So this dot artist is equal to data. Let me check what is that artist is gonna come. I wanna see the data in my HTML. So as of now, just make somewhere at the top one row and one single column, one pre-tag, just for testing purpose. Artist of type JSON. Let me get the this data now. Let me check once. Yes, I got an object. But in object, I need actually an array. Oh, sorry. Object only na. Particular artist, right? Okay, then it's an object. Yeah, I got artist object. Let me just copy as it is back to our JSON. Yes, this was what JSON replaced with this artist. Okay, so here we have a single object, nothing much. And here we have a number of followers and genres and images, ID, everything is there. So let's fetch this the real data and display in the place of here. So I don't need this data now. So delete this row and column not required. Here image. So image I replace with src. Src is going to be artist dot images of first object, because these are all small images. So I need the bigger image. So images is an array of the first element is 0 dot url. So dot images of 0 dot url. Okay, and then name. Trying to fetch the name directly. Name, where is that? Here. So artist dot name and genus. Genus I have to loop from this genus. So here I write star ng for let genre of artist dot genus. I have to display that genre. Okay. The list of followers. So artist dot followers dot followers dot total, and this is going to be the number filter. Let me test. Oh, it's a huge image. I'd reduce this. Better I do one thing. I think I don't need the no gutters, because I need some space. So let's check once. The space has come, but I don't need this. I don't need this much bigger image. Let's go for column D2, and this is gonna be the 10. Okay, looks good. And then this what? This card. This card actually the list of albums, correct? Let me check once. I will go back to the home page. I search for AR. Adjusting. When I click on adjusting data has come. When I go for when I click on AR Rahman data has come. Okay, looks good, but his person specific album has to come. So it means you have to make another call to the service to get the list of albums. So list of albums, I brought a query, the URL get albums. So artist ID slash albums, you get the list of albums. So these albums you have to display in the place of here like cards. Let me quickly do that first. So let me go to the service and do this. Service is here. Yeah. So let's make another method. Get all albums. So public get all albums. So let album ID is equal to one backtick. I paste it. So but I need the artist ID that I'm gonna pass through this method and URL. Let's say the same thing. Let me copy that and paste. Okay, it's not artist URL, it's an album. Oh, sorry, it's a URL, it's not ID. It's a URL. This URL I substitute here. I get data and return type is observable of just type any. Okay, so get all albums. I have to call this function or method from my components.ts. Yeah, I need a list of albums. So I just say albums of type any as of now. Okay, ALBU albums. Let me fetch albums here. Get all albums from service again. So this dot underscore Spotify service dot get all albums. I have to substitute the artist ID. This dot artist ID dot subscribe. So then you have a function which gives you data, and thus I have to assign to the this dot albums is equal to the data. Now I have to see the list of albums data. Copy back to the HTML where I display. I display in the card. Okay. I write a pre tag again. Albums of type is none. Okay, let me check. Yes, I got an array, but why it is very less? I think I made in the column D3. One minute. Let me cut this. I make another row and a single column and paste. Because I have to see the huge data. Okay, I got data. Let me copy this. Oh, it's a huge. Up to here. But one second. I think it's an object. In that object directly items is gonna give you the actual array. Do one thing. Um, Here data dot items. This is gonna give you the list of array. So let me refresh. Yeah, I got an array. So this array I need. So let me copy that. Copy. Go to my JSON. Here I don't need this. Replace. This is around some 2000 lines. That's okay. Fine. So in this array we have an object. So it's a huge object up to here. Okay. The name and release date, tracks, number, type, and all. Yeah. Let me display this particular data in the form of in the place of this card. So first of all, I don't need this JSON because I have taken that. The image, album image, I had to change. So album image is not the static. So replace with an src album. Oh, I have to loop it, right? So where I loop, can I make for each row or each column? Each column. Let's say star ng for let's album of album album of albums. So each album dot uh, it's not done. Album. This is album dot not this. Yeah, images. First image again. Images of 0 dot url. Yep. Check once. Yes, I got all the list of albums of AR Rahman. Fine, looks good. And I need to give some gap over here. Is a card margin top 2 or 3. Okay, looks good. And then album name. Where's the name here? Okay, it's a name dot name. Okay, here album dot name and view album. It's a button. Let's check once. I got album names, but it's a very huge name. I'll make album name not h3 and now let's make a normal paragraph. Oh, SAP. Okay, it's just a small name. Album name, yeah. So I got album name with a class call. Let me give some margin top 3 or something. Okay, so looks good. Fine. Let me test some of that data. Let me go to home. I search for Shreya Ghoshal. Yeah, Shreya Ghoshal. When I click on Shreya Ghoshal, some 33 um, lakhs. Yeah. I click on Shreya Ghoshal. Yeah, Shreya Ghoshal specific albums has come. Okay, fine. The next step is so as of now, what we have done is for a particular artist, we have fetched the list of albums. Okay, and then when I click on each album, I need to fetch the list of tracks. That's the next step. So how to get the tracks is when I click on a view album, I have to get the tracks. So it means each album is having album ID. So when you want to see that, see here, this is each album objects. In that, see each album is having an ID. This is album ID and another album ID, but all are showing same data. Artist, I think it's artist ID. Is album ID. Yes, I think this is the album ID. Yes, yes, yes. ID. Yes, this album, not this ID. Sorry, not this ID. So here another ID, direct ID. And what about this ID? This is
So,
inside
so
art.
we have to pass this ID then, right?
Yes, yes. So this artist array, not this ID, because this ID belongs to the artist ID, not that one. Um, yeah, this ID. This is album ID. So I have a URL. See, get a single album specific data. You have to pass the album ID over there. So how to get that is dot ID directly. So when I click on a button, I'll make router link slash albums slash the ID. So album dot ID directly. Let me test is that coming a different ID or not. Go back to here. So when I keep a cursor, I mean on the button, see I got one V here, one V something, here some other, here some other, here some other. Yes, I'm getting a different album ID. So this ID I have to pass it as a URL and I have to catch it. So for all this, we need to make a new component. That's a album component. Okay, it's address component. So the plan is create a new component. So back to terminal, NgGC album, album. Okay, enter. It's taking time. Yeah, created. Let me configure this with routing. Yep, here it is albums slash ID. I have to display album components. Okay, so in the album component, I have to fetch the ID. So let's make public album ID. There's nothing. And to fetch this, so you have to fetch means you have to use the activated root. So private underscore activated root of activated root. So in the init method, let's say this dot activated root dot param map dot subscribe. So here we have data. So here param map of type param map. Yep. Thing is this param map I have to attach. Okay, this dot album ID is equal to param map dot get. It's an ID. Let's make an ID. Okay, so let me display the ID2 in my HTML so that I can go ahead. So H1, I'll use album ID. Fine, let's check. Let me click on this ID. I got some ID, one VA something from the URL. Back. When I click on this one, I got that ID. When I click on the other one, I got that ID. Yes. So IDs are working. Yep. So ID is fine so that I can go for directly to the ID. Yeah. I got ID, but I don't need this UI. But UI is the French. I go to the next albums, next image. Yeah, this image. So this is the albums page. So the person name and I mean the person photo is the album image and the album name and also the tracks, list of tracks. Let me finish off this HTML part and then go with the programming. Let me go with this. So one section with a class called p3 and in this one container, I think it's a container fluid, one row, one column, one card header, card body, header with bg primary and text to white. Okay, so inside one row, I think it's a two column layout again, column d2 and also column d10. Here an image. Let's make an image tag src. As of now, I just get some dummy image. Copy image address. give the class image fluid image thumbnail, and here the album name. Let's make album name statically h5. The class called some display for album name, and one back button. Let's make an anchor tag href. Will you make an anchor tag for the back button? I think you can't. Okay, shall I do one thing? I just sketch normal button. I'll make the class called btn minus outline white. Let's say back. It's a small button. Let's make sm button sm, and I need to make align item center, everything center of the row. Test once. Okay, so below in the card body, I need the each track like a card. That's again column day 6 half of. So in the card body, let's make a row. In the single column, not single column. It's a call md call md6. Okay, in this you have to make a card and card body, card and card minus body. So let's make a card body bg primary or bg secondary, text white, text center, and that some name. I don't know, it's a track name. So let's make p with the class called leader. Let's say track name, and one audio tag here, audio tag with controls, and each card, let me give some margin top and bottom, and here let's make the source. Source is just empty. We have to display the src from the backend. Let me test. Okay, so I got it. You can actually make 3 tracks side by side. It means you have to make this 4. Okay, looks good. Uh, Fine. Let me make this page from the real data. Okay, so what we got is album. Did we get album data? Album component, only album ID, not album. How to get album? I think we have made a function service. Yeah, get all albums over, but single album has not come. You want to get the single album. Anyway, we got the album ID. So from that, yeah, if you pass album ID to this URL, you get a single album that has to display in the header, and all the tracks to be displayed here. So that's the last copy. So let's make a method get a album single album. So public get album. So let's album URL backtick. Let me grab this and paste it. But I need an album ID, so that we have to pass um, from the components. And let me call that. Okay, options get album URL and options. Yeah, this returns unobservable. Of type any. Okay, and also let's make another method also get all tracks. So public get all tracks. So let's, I think you have to pass again album ID. Yeah. H album URL, or let's make tracks URL backtick. I paste it and I need to pass the album ID. Okay, so let me call the same, but this is gonna be the tracks URL and return statements observable of type any. Okay, all tracks and Git album. Let me call this from my component. Where is that album component.ts? So let's say public album. So I need to get the data. So here one small comment, get album ID from the browser URL and it's an album from the service. So this dot underscore Spotify service not there. Okay, let me import uh, private underscore Spotify service of Spotify service. Okay, so let's use this dot Spotify service dot get album of this dot album ID dot subscribe here data and attach here. So this dot album is equal to data. Let me test the album content now in my HTML somewhere in the somewhere here. Let's make here a row single column and paste. If you use a pre tag, okay, go check once. No data. Oh, how come no data? Album. Uh, this dot album is going to be get album. You think is correct? Maybe that authentication key has expired. One second, let me grab the authentication key one more time. Go to the service. Let me replace this key with a new key. Let me test one. I need to get data first. Hmm. Yes, I got data. So this is album data. Let me grab this. Oh, it's a huge data. Yeah, go to JSON and replace artist array. Okay, artist. Okay, external URL. Artist actually an array. Okay, fine. Available markets and copyright external IDs, Jana's image. I think this part ID, images, and the name. Yep, correct. This one. So what I need here is I don't need this data now. Go to HTML album HTML. Yeah, I don't need this now. Okay, so this photo I have to change. That is let's see album dot uh, album.images of 0.url. Then okay, album name is going to be the direct name. This is album.name and back button. That's okay. Enough. You can make the release date also. Just shall we do one more extra p with the class called h3 release date. I want display the release dates. So album dots release underscore dates of type date formats. Date of short date. Check once. Okay, it's a short date, very short. It's medium dates. Okay, looks good. This is fine. February 1st. Okay, tracks not came. Let me get the tracks also. So let me call the just the method. Okay, get all tracks of an album. So from service, tracks are to store a variable public tracks. Okay, this dots underscore Spotify service dots get all tracks of album ID. This dot album ID dot subscribe. Here I have to pass data, and this dot tracks is equal to data. Let me check the tracks on my HTML somewhere in the here. Let's make a row single column. Let's make a pre-tag tracks of type JSON. Check once. I got all tracks, but I need only, it's not object. I need just items, array of data. Okay, let's make a small change. Here data dot items. I got array directly. Let me grab the array, copy here in my JSON replace. Okay, I don't need to display data now. Um, what was that album? Yeah, I don't need to display that. Just empty. Okay, here nothing much, just track name and the source. So track name is gonna be you have to loop it, and in that each object, mm, yeah, I think here it is name and preview URL. I think this one name and the preview URL. So let me loop it first. Track name way to loop here column D. So star ng for let's track of tracks. Okay, so I had to display the track name. So track dot name directly is that, yeah, can we check? Yeah, I got track names, yes, Iskudera and all. Source, I think this is the source preview URL. Let me copy once, go to Google I'll paste it here. Yes, this is the URL. I had to attach that URL as a source for this one. So here src I replace like this. Src like property binding. This one preview URL. So track dot preview URL. That's it. Now check. Yes, all are filled now. Let me click on a yes. It's playing actually. So that's it. Let me go to home. Let me search for a person. Something called yeah, Shreya Ghoshal. I got Shreya Ghoshal. When I click on see list of persons has come and Shankar Mahadevan. Yeah. When I click on Shreya Ghoshal, this photo and all her albums. Let me click on this one. Shreya Ghoshal Super Hit songs in this photo. When I click on that one, just go to that particular page and release dates and all the tracks. Let me click on this one. Yep. It's playing. Maybe the sound is not coming. Plus, I have connected to my headphone. You can hear that. Okay. So fine. One last thing is when I click on a back button, I have to go back to the previous. What do you call the previous page? It's a previous page is artist page. So go to there. Mm, how to go there is one minute. If I click on back button, it's gone to the artist slash artist ID. Artist ID has to go, but can we have artist ID in our album? Artistic components. Yes, I have artist ID. Yes, so I have to send that back with artist ID. Okay, so for the button, yeah, is a button back button. Mm, not here. Where is that? I think albums component.html. Yeah, back button. Here only album ID. It's not artist ID. Hmm. I think we have to do the reverse process. I have to fetch the artist ID from this data only. Album dot something. In that album, I think can be found is all tracks now. This is artist ID only now. In the array, artist dot ID. This we have to go back. Okay, let me try that now. So click on a back button. I make a click. So I say back to artist, back to artist function. So let me copy back to here. I create a method public back to artists. But you want to send back, you need to have a router. Let me declare here. So private underscore um, router of type Angular router. Okay. So here this dot underscore router dot navigates to one array. So here I use backtick album first object dot artist. Let's take this dot album single album. No, that's it. This is tracks data, right? Better if you go with album, easily you can find out. Instead of track, do one thing. Let me copy once. Go to album component. Somewhere I'll display here. Album of type JSON. Okay. Okay, album I got. So in that, this is artist ID. So album dot artist of 0.id. Where is that? Here. Album dot artist. Artist is an array. In this array, the first object, artist of 0.id. Okay, but how to provide slash artist slash. Okay, I hope it works. Let me check. I don't need this data now. Album HTML. This is not required. So check once. This is from Shreya Ghoshal. When I click on this back button, Sonu Nigam. No. Acha is and the singer is there. It means not this one then. Yeah, when I click on Shreya Ghoshal, it's OO something. It's OO data. But how to fetch the particular artist URL? This is artist ID. So particular artist ID, only we got album. When I click on album, only this ID is sending over there. One second, let me go back again. This is actually data. But two things are there, no? Here an artist, here also an artist. But which is the perfect one? See Shreya Ghoshal, Sonu Nigam. But Shreya Ghoshal, through Shreya Ghoshal only we came. So, okay, I'll just find out that, okay? Because I don't want to waste time here. Because I have here another one number, but it's not that one. Okay, I'll just find out that. But till then, I have made this application. So it is having routing also, like home and about. Here you can search for SP Balasubramaniam. You can click on that person and his person or real-time data, and you can click on any this thing. Oh, this is not to be there. I delete. Okay, fine. Yeah, it's playing. Fine. Only back button which is not there. I'll just make it by tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll see another application like a employee portal. Okay, so that's it.
Okay,
Uh, yeah. Any questions?
that's fine. Yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll meet tomorrow, and we'll finish off this application, and we'll start another application. Right. Thank you.